My name is Clara Rowan, and the first time I saw him, he was lying half buried in the snow, not moving. I was on my way back from the market, my basket nearly empty, because I hadn't earned enough money that week to buy more than bread. The streets were quiet, the wind sharp, and most of the villagers had already gone inside to escape the cold. I noticed him near the edge of the woods, beside the old fence that had been broken for years and never repaired. His coat was torn, and one of his hands was covered with dried blood. For a moment, I thought he was dead. My first instinct was to keep walking. It would have been easier to pretend I hadn't seen him, but something inside me whispered, "Help him." Maybe it was the calmness of his face, even though his body was clearly hurt. Or maybe it was because I knew too well what it meant to be alone. My parents died when I was 17, and since then, I had lived by myself, earning a living by cleaning houses, carrying water, and helping elderly villagers with errands. Nobody truly noticed me, so when I saw him there, I felt something stir in me. A beginning, a story waiting to unfold. I knelt beside him and touched his shoulder gently. To my surprise, he stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and I froze. They were green, not the soft green of grass or leaves, but a sharp, cold brightness that almost didn't look human. He met my gaze without fear. His lips were cracked, his voice rough and faint when he whispered, "Don't leave." "I won't," I answered, though my hands trembled. He was heavy, but I managed to drag him onto an old wooden cart abandoned near the fence. Inch by inch, I pulled him toward my small house at the far end of the village. My home was only one room, with a stove that worked half the time and walls thin enough for the wind to sneak through. Still, it was warm compared to the snow. I pulled off his frozen boots and found his feet nearly stiff from the cold. I wrapped them in cloth, then made a thin soup from the little food I had. I gave him water, tucked him under 2 blankets, and sat beside the fire, watching him sleep. He didn't wake that night. I fed the stove with every piece of wood I had and listened to the storm outside. The next morning, he was still unconscious. I lied to my employer, telling her I was ill so I could stay home. I couldn't leave him unattended. I cleaned his cuts and rewrapped his feet. He didn't open his eyes until the second evening. I was pouring tea when I heard a low voice behind me. I thought I was gone. I turned and saw him sitting up, the blanket draped over his shoulders. He looked a little stronger, but still pale. I handed him tea and asked, "Do you remember what happened?" He shook his head. "Only the cold. And someone behind me." That was all he said. For the next few days, he rested. I didn't press him for answers, and he didn't volunteer any. Yet I couldn't help studying him when he wasn't looking. He moved with the quiet steadiness of someone who had lived a hard life, but his eyes held a kind of peace. I decided to call him Adrian. I couldn't just keep calling him you. When I told him, he smiled faintly. "Adrian," he repeated. "It sounds strong." "And you?" he asked. "You look like someone who should have a strong name too." I smiled shyly. "Clara will have to do." Through the long weeks of winter, Adrian stayed. When he was strong enough to walk, he helped me fetch water, repaired the wobbly chair I had stopped using, and even caught a runaway chicken for the neighbor, who thanked us with potatoes. People in the village started to notice him. "Is he your cousin?" one man asked. I only shook my head. Adrian never questioned me about my life. That surprised me. Most people pry, but not him. One night, while we sat by the fire eating soup, I asked instead, "Where were you before I found you?" He stared into the flames. I don't know. I was running from something, but the rest, I don't remember. Do you have family? I asked. No. Were you wealthy? He gave a sad smile. Not in the ways that count. I didn't push further, but one afternoon, while he was outside chopping wood, I cleaned his torn coat. In an inner pocket, I found a small wooden box, smooth and warm. A strange symbol was carved on its lid, a circle with a line through it. Inside was a golden ring. It didn't gleam like normal gold. Instead, it seemed alive, faintly pulsing, waiting. I touched it lightly. Don't! I jumped. Adrian stood in the doorway, a log in his hand. His voice was calm but firm. It's not for you. Flustered, I stammered. I didn't mean. I know, he said. He crossed the room, took the box gently from my hands, and slid it back into his coat. Then he sat, staring at the fire. That ring, it gives what you ask, but it takes something to. What do you mean? I whispered. His green eyes lifted to mine. Some truths are better left until later. I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. Perhaps because he had never lied to me. Perhaps because I already trusted him more than most. That night, I dreamed of a green light and a voice calling my name. When spring arrived, the snow melted. Adrian built a small garden bed behind the house. We planted onions and carrots. One morning, while we worked, he asked softly, "If I stayed here, truly stayed, what would you think?" I smiled, warmth spreading through me. Then I wouldn't be alone anymore. We never had a formal wedding, but we declared ourselves husband and wife. He twisted silver wire into a simple ring for me. I wore a blue dress, and we stood beneath the tree at the edge of the woods, the very spot where I had found him. Life felt gentler then, but soon odd things began to happen. We never ran out of flour or sugar. New blankets appeared. My worn shoes were suddenly replaced with warm boots. When I asked Adrian, he only said, "I traded old things I had." I wanted to believe him, but one dawn, I awoke to see him in the garden, holding the wooden box. 3 men in dark clothes appeared before him, bowed and vanished, leaving a chest of folded clothes. When he turned, I was standing there. "It's time you knew," he said heavily. "There are truths I've kept from you." By the fire that night, he told me everything. He had lived in a city at the edge of the mountains, where his family served a powerful man obsessed with controlling life and death. That man had discovered, or forged, the ring. "The ring listens to wishes," Adrian said. "Gold, food, anything. But every time it grants, it steals. Sometimes small things, memories, feelings. Other times, things you cannot replace." "What did it take from you?" I asked quietly. His jaw tightened. "I no longer remember my mother's face, or the sound of my sister's laughter. I know I loved them, but they are gone from me." Tears stung my eyes. "I ran," he continued. "I took the ring, hoping to hide it, to stop it. But the one who made it will never stop hunting me." I whispered, "Then throw it away." Adrian shook his head. "It would find its way back. Or worse, fall into crueler hands. I keep it to protect it. To protect others." I touched his hand. "You stayed here." His eyes softened. "Because I met you. From then, we tried to live normally." He avoided using the ring. We worked side by side, painted the walls, fixed the roof, laughed, planted more food. For a while, I forgot. Until the day at the market, when I overheard 2 strangers. Their clothes were too fine, their voices too smooth. "He was seen near the forest," one said. Still has it. We must act soon. Terror jolted through me. I hurried home and told Adrian. His face grew grim. They've found me. It's time to leave. Leave? I cried. We just built a life. He locked the door. If we stay, they will destroy everything. Then let's not run, I snapped. Let's fight. Or destroy the ring. He stared at me. Destroy it? Why not? If it only brings pain, why should it exist? That night, under the same tree where I first saw him, we dug a hole, poured salt and ash, placed the ring inside, and burned it with silver. The fire turned blue. The ground shook. Then silence. The ring was gone. Or so we thought. The next morning, the strangers came. They tore through the house, searching. They found nothing. You've made a grave mistake, one warned. He will not forgive this. For days after, silence returned. Then, one evening, I saw a figure in a black coat standing at the forest's edge, watching. Adrian closed the curtain. That's him. We packed what little we had and fled into the night. We traveled for weeks, through rivers, woods, and fields. We slept in barns, in hollow trees, under stars. I was tired, but I was not afraid. Wherever Adrian went, I would follow. One night, I dreamed of the ring whole again, glowing in black water. I woke screaming. Adrian held me. When I told him, his face turned pale. It's not over, he whispered. He led us toward the old kingdom, where he said the ring had been forged. Our journey was long and hard. Finally, we reached a valley where a black tower pierced the sky. It's there, Adrian said. The tower loomed, wrong and silent. Inside, we were met by the pale man in the black coat, his glassy eyes fixed on us. You tried to destroy it, he said, but it can only hide, never end. It must be claimed light flared. The ring reappeared, hovering over stone. Adrian whispered to me, if I take it again, I may forget you. Tears burned my eyes. Then don't. Please, if I don't, he said, he will, and no one will be safe. He reached. I screamed. His fingers closed around the ring, a flash of light. When I woke, I was outside the tower. Alone. I searched for him for days. No trace. Villagers swore no man with green eyes had ever been there. Already, his face was fading from my memory. A year later, someone knocked at my door. A tall man in a familiar coat. His eyes were brown, not green, but something in his stance stirred recognition. I think I'm lost, he said softly. I opened the door, heart trembling. Maybe not. Maybe you've just come home. He hesitated, then stepped inside. I poured tea. We sat by the fire. He didn't speak much, but when his eyes rested on the room, a flicker of memory crossed his face. And I knew. The story was not finished.